Hello, all you hardcores out there. How you doing? It's Russ here from Porky's Corner, the biggest gob in sport. We say the things on here that nobody dare say, and still. Right, here we go. Terry's take. Enjoy this. This is Terry's take on the Carl Froch, Conor Benn. Uh, well, could you call it an interview? I don't know. The main question that I'm really upset he didn't ask about, it's not so much the drugs in his system, because we all know it's in its system. It's Connor, why didn't you sue the laboratory if they cocked up your career and 2 year drug test? Why are you not suing the laboratory? That's all I really want to know. But we all know how it got in his system, don't we? So, all right, but here we go. Here's Terry's take on it.
No, right there and there, just at the front, right there and there. Yeah, but then, don't take it. No, don't take it. No, actually, you sleep. But I'm not sure what the genuine beef is with Conor Benn and Chris Eubank. I know they've got the history, like I mentioned, the father's name. Chris Eubank seems quite chilled and quite happy and smiling. Every time Conor Benn comes into speeches, close proximity with Chris Eubank Jr. I think he goes, oh, mate, you know, look at that, got serious things. Every time he gets in his face, get on it. But you don't like him, he hates him. He wants to smash his head in. Is this just selling the fight, or is this genuine need? What's the point? Why have you got to compete? The combination, one of the things to do with winning this, he's, what, 28 years old. He was already got the right juice from it. He's genuine fight. What's the one always 35 years old? In my opinion, the age of your body, you've only got that's way.
It must be mad 7 in the morning.
Welcome back to the number one podcast in the sport where we saw Turkey put the lipstick on Carl Froch finally. And Turkey showed us that he plays 4D, 5D, 6D chess while we're all still playing checkers. I'm sure by now most of you have listened to the Carl Froch interview. If you haven't, just type into YouTube Carl Froch Conor Benn. It's about 30 minutes long. Watch it at 1.5 speed because genuinely you're not going to miss out on anything. And from the start, it was a really weird thing, wasn't it? Because if you look at Carl Froch's Shadow Froch and fighting, it's gone through three kind of unique phases. There's phase one, where Carl's trying to work out what his voice is, right? And then he moves into phase two. Now, phase two is when he realizes he's become the voice of the hardcores. Now, I don't know if between phase one and phase two, he's been buying views or been boosting the channel with money. I don't know, but he did good numbers out of the box, which is rare because you've got to understand YouTube doesn't like that. YouTube does not like overnight successes because everything is data driven. So you're not going to go from 0 to 100,000 subscribers unless YouTube knows this is what people really want to see, and they'll put you in front of more and more people, and that's what drives your growth. Now, you see, with Carl went from that really hardcore talk, which is quite niche in boxing, and he doubled down on that, right? And whether he paid Russ or not, I've never asked the question, but he started to leverage a lot of what Porky Russ was saying in his videos. And so he doubled down on being one of the voices of the hardcores, doubled down on that. And that's kind of phase two. And he really stuck it to everyone. He's using Porkyisms like Roadman Killer. I don't know if you call Frank Fish Eyes or not, but he's using a lot of the Porkyisms and a lot of Russ's structure, referring to details. Who's this guy really beating, etc., etc. And so we're like, okay, let's see if he can grow this. Because if he can grow this, it's going to benefit everyone in that lane. That's what everyone's thinking at this point. And then there's no evolution. It's like this really weird pivot where he goes from that to let me back in the tent, guys. I've been on the outside long enough. It's cold and it's wet out here. Let me back in the tent, please. Let me back in the tent. Because we need to remember who Carl Froch was in phase two.
Conor Benn, I mean, this is a guy that's not fought in Britain for 3 years. I think his last fight was in April 2022.
And every time he talks, every time he gets in Krusher Benn's face over the last couple of days, I do feel for him a little bit. Can I first just say that Conor Benn, I know him and I've met him a few times, and he's such a nice kid, such a lovely, lovely young man. And when I say that, I don't mean, oh, he's lovely and that. He's obviously a fighter and he wants to get in there and he wants to do some damage and hurt his opponent and get the knockout. And that's how he fights. And he's exciting when he fights. But he's not fucking fought anybody. And he's talking like a roadman killer. He's not been busy. He's fought no one. And can you answer me a question as well? What's happening with this drug testing issue? Is he banned? Is he serving a ban? Is there any official news? Because as far as I know, he's still not got a British Boxing Board of Control license to fight.
That's Carl, right? Nothing controversial there. That's just a man that's boxed most of his life talking about sport that he loves. And talking about Conor Benn, a guy who, while he likes him, is being honest enough to say, you haven't really done what you should have done. And so, fair enough, you're like, cool, okay. Carl Froch may not be the most hardcore of hardcores, but he's saying stuff that other people aren't saying. He's saying stuff that Boxing News isn't saying. He's saying stuff that Seconds Out aren't saying. And, you know, he was becoming the fans' favourite.
Eubank's looking at Conor Benn, he's talking to him, he's thinking to himself, when do I splat this egg around the side of his head? When do I do it? How do I do it? Do I put it in his face? Do I put it on his head? Is he going to see me? Because if Conor would have seen him, he might have blocked it and check hooked him. But it was quick. He distracted Conor by saying, what did you say? Then he reached for the egg and he clattered him right around the side of the back of the ear and the face. And the egg yolk went everywhere. A lot of the yolk missed him. So it wasn't that embarrassing where he's dribbling with egg yolk. It was a bit of a piss take. It was a fucking liberty. If he'd done that to me, no security guard, I'd have waited. I'd have let the security guard say, oh, I'm calm, I'm all good. Leave me alone. Okay, let me breathe, let me get my breath. And then I'd have charged at him. One way or another, I'd have got to him. Whether I'd have waited outside for him, I'd have fucking had my day. Nobody eggs me in the face.
That's what you want to hear, right? If you've got an ex-fighter doing a podcast, that's the energy you want, okay? That's the Carl Froch you want. That's the Carl Froch that the British public became a fan of. That's the guy who said we can all have a bit of a push and a pull.
Krusher Benn Jr. can't enter. Does absolutely nothing for me.
Really?
Yeah, Krusher Benn Jr. lost to George Groves, he lost to Billy Joe Saunders, he doesn't box, he boxes once a year. He looked terrible in his last fight. He was slow with his jab, he was leaving his chin in the air, his balance looks like it's gone. He's 36 years old, talking about fighting Canelo Alvarez and taking all these top, he was talking about Triple G for a while, who's now gone 40 and retired. Yeah. Conor Benn? What's Conor Benn done? He beat Chris Algieri, he's failed that drugs test. We're not seeing him do anything. Yeah, he's fought nobody, he's not developed. He's not developed, he's done nothing. So for Conor Benn to jump in there with Krusher Benn Jr., the only reason that fight would be close is because they're probably going to drain Eubank down to 160, a middleweight. And then, but Conor Benn having to come up from 147. Yeah. So it's not an exciting fight.
Well, I'm sure someone played these for Turkey. And Turkey's gone, okay. He thinks he can talk crazy about my investments. He thinks he can talk all that madness about me and my money. All right, let's see. Let's test the color of his character. Let's find out if he's got some nuts in those boxer shorts. And what do they do? Hey, Carl, come out to Saudi. Yeah. First class. Flights, don't worry about it. We'll pick you up from your house. You ain't even got to touch your luggage till you get to the hotel. We've got you, Carl. Don't worry. You know, Froch is feeling like a superstar again, feeling like he's on top of the world. Yeah, jumps on the plane, first class. I don't know what his choice of drink is. He's probably gone for a whiskey. Maybe he's gone with the Ardbeg Alligator. I'd recommend it. Good whiskey. Maybe he's gone with a good Camus cognac. I don't know. You know, he might have gone with a Heim cognac. There are options, right? He's okay. Frappin, usual. You know, maybe he's gone with I don't know, Lafroig. Maybe he's going with an Optimal. You know how it is, man. Now, he's sat on that plane. He's there. He's got his caviar. He's living nice. He gets to the hotel. Sweet. Gets to look out over Riyadh. Maybe not the best view, but he feels important because he's on the top floor. And they shower him. He's probably got petals on the way into the room and all that sort of stuff, right? They treat him like a king. They're like, Carl, anywhere you want to go, you can go, right? And Carl's like, the Cobra's back. You know how he does with that head of his. And then Turkey sees him and goes, look, Carl, you've been talking kind of crazy. You know, Like, I'm trying to make money in this game. You understand that? That there's a bigger picture than just boxing here. And you being a respected fighter, doing 250,000 views, throwing rocks at what we're doing over here, harming the strategic assets I'm putting money into. And Turkey looked at him and went, them things like are run dreadlocks. Them things like are run dreadlocks. And he was like, excuse me for, just drifting outside of my usual tone. But, he's like, look, that can't run, Carl. So you can't be talking crazy.
Yeah.
The hell do you even care if we sing the Saudi national anthem at Wembley? It's got nothing to do with you. This is way above your pay grade, my friend. And Carl's like, oh, right. I'm a boxer, build a few proper hits, that's all, man. Sorry, Turkey. And Turkey's like, nah, that ain't good enough. So what we need you back on the inside here, Carl. I know you want to come back in. I can do that for you. But you go wear that dress that's hanging up in your hotel and those heels that are in the wardrobe. And my sister's going to come and put the lipstick bang on your lips, Carl. Okay? And then once you've done that, we're going to sit down and you're going to interview me. You're going to make me look $1 million. You're going to make me look like the hardcore's favorite. That's all you're going to do, Carl. Okay? Oh, right. Don't worry, Carl. They've all had to do it. And probably showed him the pictures of all of them in the dresses and the high heels. Some of them probably, grabbing their ankles. The usual, right? And so Carl does the interviews. And, he's getting hammered. And so people knew the acid test for Carl Froch and where his reputation would be in the sport was always going to be when he interviewed Krusher Benn because of everything we just played here. Yeah. He already had his talking points because he's broadcast them. So we knew if Turkey had him by the balls, this would be a waste of time. If he didn't, then my goodness, Carl would have been Superman at this point. So the interview goes, we know what's coming. The fact that it took this long to come out tells you how controlled this was. I imagine behind the camera, they were there with flashcards telling Connor how to react to stuff. The questions were given to Carl. Because why does Carl Froch need to ask Krusher Benn questions? Do you know what I mean? You already have your talking points. You don't even... At this point, any average toddler knows the questions to ask Krusher Benn. Like, the things the fans want to know. Like, we didn't need a fluff piece to build this fight up. And all this is done, and I don't know if anyone's seen the video, but go and look at the comment section. Turkey's been absolutely smart. Like, he's been beyond intelligent on this. Because what has he done? He's emasculated Carl in the eyes of the fans. He's built up Krusher Benn, right? Because he's made Connor look strong here. And he's killed Fortune Fighting as a credible channel. That means Carl now has to go to Turkey for whatever he wants. So the dress stays on, the high heels stay on, and the lipstick stays on. I don't want to call him Lipstick Carl, but it's about to become Lipstick Carl Froch, right? Because that's what it looks like. All I can think of when I see that interview is him just wearing lipstick, the dress, and the high heels, right? And doing his little runway walk. And it's sad because Carl Froch is a Hall of Fame legend. But if you don't believe me, just listen to how Krusher Benn is talking to a Hall of Famer, a man that's been in with everybody. Just listen to Connor's energy in this, and this lets you know that the emasculation was well planned and well executed.
What was going through your head when Chris did what he did on stage? What's going through your head? I know you were fuming, but
I thought Chris had glassed me.
really,
I thought he had glassed me. Yeah. Because I felt
it was so stupid.
I do think
Did it feel a little bit because of the eggshell? Did that like feel it on your head?
I don't know if you're fishing it or...
No, I'm not. I'm just saying, like, you said glass. Like,
I
I've seen people get glass. I grew up in pubs.
Oh,
and like,
I felt something. I've heard a crack.
Right, okay.
And
Lovely,
liquid.
lovely,
Liquid.
lovely.
That would be the eggshell, yeah, obviously. Yeah, that would be the eggshell.
Probably on the seat a little bit.
And then,
You heard Carl there, right? Connor had Carl backpedaling. Oh, I grew up in a pub. He had Carl backpedaling, properly backpedaling. And then Connor was like, yeah, I kind of feel sorry for him. Like, he hasn't really signed up for this. So let me give him some toffee, is what Keane would say, by doing the fake laugh. And then Carl does the fake laugh to save face. And this is the tone of the interview, just real lowball questions that you can see Connor doesn't really want to do. Carl definitely doesn't want to do, but hey, I mean, once the outfit's on, I mean, it's either do the interview or do the OnlyFans, right?
Round 8. Carl Froch, Nigel Benn, who wins? Listen, I wouldn't expect you to not bet your old man up. But
No, I genuinely, I think my dad irons you out.
do you think iron out? An iron out? That's a big call, mate. Never been ironed out. Never been stretched.
We never fought Nigel Benn.
Put on the floor twice. Got both times to win. See, you could have just said he beats me.
No, you're right. No, that's horrible. No, you know what? That's horrible for me. Listen, Dad, I back you, mate.
Listen,
That's
Dad,
it. No, he's my dad. You like your son to say that about you, though, wouldn't you?
100.
So you got angry Connor there going, you need to put Carl in his place and let me know my old man would iron him out for all the stuff you said, Carl. And then Connor realized, being the well-bred kid from wealth that he is, this interview's not going to work with his adversarial, so I've got to chuck in some more toffee again. And Carl's there just like, oh, thank God for that. I was drowning for a second there. Woo! You saved me there, Connor. And so this is just the tone of the interview, by the way. Go and listen to it. But that's the tone of it. Like, it's really... Carl came to put Conor Benn over in the most cringeworthy way. But from a Conor Benn perspective, I thought he came out of it looking stronger than I thought he would, because there was no question about the drugs, no question about how he got off, no question about, do you think there are systemic problems in UK anti-doping, as someone who's been through the process? There's no, what did you think about the board? And you're going to be too controversial, but you say, look, we can all learn from this. But show the fans enough respect to go, I know what the fans want to hear. And they didn't. They just controlled it to the nth degree, right? And it was embarrassing for Carl. To the point where, I mean, Carl then realizes he's been in there with a kid from privilege who really just wants to be loved.
Me and you can sit down here. How come me and you could go to lunch and have a good
Like
chat?
human and people.
Yeah, like just human, just like a normal, down-to-earth level conversation. Zero.
So he's not a bad guy. And you're not a bad guy.
I'm definitely not a bad guy. I'm not how, I don't know what happens, but I'm definitely misunderstood. I am definitely misunderstood. Because I'm not a bad guy at all.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Like, no follow-up question. No, you got up in Eubank's face. No mention of the anger when you had the Piers Morgan interview. No mention of the general anger you've had towards everybody, right? No mention of the anger and aggression towards Kell Brook, towards Amir Khan. None of that stuff. No mention of, well, you used to rub that Rolls Royce in everyone's face. Where's all of that? Where's well, you mean you had the whole beard transplant to be the hard man. Now look at you. You're trying to portray yourself as that rich, rebellious kid now. None of those questions came up. Now, look, I'm just kicking these off the top of my head. If you gave me 30 minutes with Conor Benn, unrestricted, we're going to get to some things. Yeah, we're going to get to some things. Because those guys didn't even get to some things. They didn't even talk about the fight that's coming up. Apart from Froch going, 26th of April on the zone. You know what I mean? They wagged their finger at that guy. They're like, listen, you think the lipstick's the worst thing we put on your lips, Carl? You wait till the zipper drops. You know what I mean? They had Carl by the... Oh, it's so embarrassing, man. Embarrassing. It was just embarrassing. And I say this as someone who really respected Carl, respected the line he took in his media career, because I felt there was life in that. He could have stayed in that lane for a long time. And eventually the love of the fans would have meant that he would have had to have done commentary. They couldn't keep him on the outside for too long. But he didn't have the courage to see it out. And that's sad. That's really, really sad that Carl ended up with the lipstick and the dress and the high heels. Don't know if he got the legs shaved or waxed. Up to him. But I know, as disappointed as I am, there's one man even more disappointed than me, isn't there?
Why would a multi-millionaire get access like that from this fastest growing boxing channel out there, and then not ask questions to people like Turkey about the national anthem, Ben Whittaker about quitting, Conor Benn about the drugs, and Techno Joe Gallagher interview down off your channel, and it's because you mentioned Eddie Hills and Bricktop and that. What? Who's got it, you Cobra? Come on. What have they promised you? Because that's what goes on in boxing. They promise you a bit of pundit work down the line. Is that what it is?
I know Russ is in bits right now. I should give him a call and just console him. But he'll be heartbroken that that this is what Carl Froch has become. Now, I don't know what Carl's personal situation is. Maybe the money is necessary. Or maybe, because if you really think about this, Carl never really had a Calzaghe moment where the wheels came off post-retirement. He seemed to do boxing perfectly. Left after the biggest night of his career, but deep down, I think he wanted that Vegas send-off. And there's always a bit of Carl, and he doesn't admit it publicly, but there's a bit of Carl. There's like a darkness to Carl that says, I don't feel boxing gave me everything I deserve. And maybe that's what Frosh fighting was about. That was him venting and going, the sport didn't give me what I deserve, so I'm going to come after the sport. And now Turkey's understood that, found his weakness and just dangled that and said, look, you can come back, Carl. You can do the punditry. You can have the suite again, the first class flights. You'll be looked after, treated like a king, Carl. You just have to toe the line. So when we need you to, Carlos, Carla, okay, we're gonna call you Carla now. Yeah, that's the code word for when you need to do these interviews for us. We're gonna call you Carla. You're going to the wardrobe. I mean, you're gonna get your favorite outfit, your favorite shoes. You do a little walk for us. Yeah, you're gonna make our guys look good, and we'll look after you. The emasculation of Carl Froch is sad to see, but I'm going to give Turkey credit because Turkey said, yeah, I'll deal with this guy. Don't you worry about that. I will deal with this guy. Nobody disrespects the great kingdom. And if you don't believe me, I just took maybe your greatest ever fighter, or at least one of the 5 greatest fighters to come out of this country. And look at him. Got him looking like Barbie, not even Ken, Barbie. Sad. And on that note, I'll say, take care, guys, and I'll speak soon.
Well, I would say his take on the Cobra's interview with Krusher Benn. What do you think? Leave a comment in the comment section. All right. Thanks for liking and subscribing and leaving a comment. Booyaka.